So does Sydney Sweeney owe you an apology or not? Initially, we didn't cover this controversy here because I hate being baited. And that American Eagle ad was intentionally baiting people to sell jeans. But we are interested in feminine guilt and branding. This American actress, producer, and businesswoman sits down with Catherine Stoffel of GQ to do an interview. And it went viral because Sydney was asked to navigate the question that everyone has been asking. What does Sydney Sweeney think of the reception to that American Eagle ad? Do you have anything to say about the controversy of that ad? The Great Jeans campaign was fantastic for marketers because it generated exactly what you want: attention, chatter, and emotion. And it heavily references a vintage Brooke Shields ad. Same play on words, directly talking about jeans being passed down from family to family as the young, tiny Brooke Shields wiggles her way into some jeans. Looking back, that ad is a little bit uncomfortable, but not for the reasons that we're talking about today. Brooke Shields actually seems too childlike for such a sensuous ad. She is young in this ad, but she was well on her way into a predatory and glittering modeling career. People knew Brooke Shields as the pretty baby who had the genetic ideal composition to be a model in the first place, and she was dark-haired, so it's a little harder to read a eugenicist subtext into it. Sydney Sweeney is also aware of the profitability of her particular blonde, blue-eyed look. And guess what? It's too easy and too reductive to make this a conversation about if she should be ashamed of that. We've seen the comments, people saying, I'm just so glad she doesn't have white guilt and she's not ashamed of who she is. Does celebrating your heritage and family background mean you're dunking on someone else? Great questions. They just missed the point. Sydney is not being asked to atone for being a white girl. She's not being told that she made a specific KKK statement that she needs to stand up and apologize for. She's being asked, what do you think about the ad's reception? What do you think about it being taken as a smug shrug towards white superiority? We all know the ad is intentionally provocative, or at best, it was misreading the room. And that room includes figures who are profiting off of ideas of white superiority, the ones who celebrated and claimed the ad as such. White superiority in this country, it's not about being proud that you're Polish or English. It's about seeing yourself as better than Black people or immigrants or Jewish people. It's an excuse to demean and dismiss and even sometimes brutalize those people. It's about seeing yourself as above the ongoing inequities that continue to endanger non-white bodies. It's pretending that none of that ever happened, and if it did, it's those people's fault. It's just great to be blonde and white, right? It's also looking in disdain and distaste at how many brown and Black babies are being born in your country. It's fearing that you're losing your culture because people who don't look like you are now your neighbors. And this particular form of superiority, it's a long part of an American history that consolidates power to enact physical, economic, and sexual assaults on people who are deemed less than. So it's not really about pride in an ethnic culture. It's about committing to a culture of domination. Bringing it back to jeans, Sydney Sweeney tells the interviewer it was a surprise. We all know it was a feature of the campaign's ability to go viral. It's not an ad about eugenicism, but American Eagle was banking on that being a pain point to cause talk. That's a bold choice. Maybe we should have listened to her the first time. I don't have a problem that she's blonde. I don't have a problem with my dad being blonde and white and him celebrating our family heritage. What we're interested in is the moral choice when people lay claim to this campaign that you worked on that's associated with your brand, and they used it to pair it with some disgusting ideas or memes, and you have nothing to say about that, even when asked. Looking at it from a business end, where you might say, well, when they go low, we go high, Sydney Sweeney is, yes, in marketing. And that's a business that uses rage and anger to sell products. She's also very aware that other brands are going to watch her to see, does she undercut the message of the campaign she was paid to sell? She's going to undermine a very expensive campaign. It would be bad for her business if she just scorched American Eagle in that GQ interview. And she's also using that interview to do careful PR about her other products, like her movies. She doesn't need to necessarily go down to the lowest level of people who like her or follow her. But it also similarly would be unbelievable PR if she came out and said, wow, I just had no idea that it could even possibly be taken that way. She does have a say in what she promotes and the creative direction, and she's working with very expensive teams that are paid to think about all these different angles. She's allowed to turn a project down. She's allowed to maybe suggest that they invite other people into the project to deflect some of the potential messaging. It's possible to defend your work. It's possible to be diplomatic with the brands you work with and also distance yourself from people who you could say they're just reading what we're doing in bad faith. She doesn't have to give a somber speech. She could keep it light and cute and say, yeah, I've seen those unexpected responses, but great jeans are for all Americans. Maybe she doesn't want to do that because there's a particular customer base she might not want to lose. This is where the white guilt part comes in. Making women guiltable, it's a two-edged sword, and you should be very aware of how people are using guilt and purity tests to get you to be quiet and to leave an economic space that was formerly dominated by men. Because this form of guilt, it's a tool for a very messed up society. You can be used to coerce and help collude with the abuse that keeps your caste system going. The political and social class of women who are believed to be this political category of white have been used for centuries to preserve white supremacy. So much of the eugenicist movement in America was based around these good family values of just wanting to protect our culture, just be proud of our heritage. And this political class of women, every generation, they have to rebrand their protection campaigns, which are just new ways of continuing a culture of domination across other groups of people. We have the guilt that women like Audrey Gelman face when they, as businesswomen, make a decision that is criticized or wasn't great for their company and things start to fall apart. These kind of women can be guilted into going on endless apology tours, constantly writing essays about why they were so horrible and bad, and scurrying off into obscurity for a lot of the same mistakes that could be growth points for other businessmen, men who find themselves with golden parachutes and chances to start over. Women in public are easily cancelable. That is because we already suspect them socially of maybe wanting too much. Sydney Sweeney was also going to be judged from this position of being an ambitious woman out in the public trying to go after money. Being perceived as a good woman is what helps people stomach you. But also there's another type of good woman, the one we were talking about earlier. Because somebody has to bake the cookies for the KKK meeting, and somebody has to have all these pure babies. And somebody also has to stand up there and yell when schools are being integrated. Pretty faces can sell and normalize certain lines of thinking. Legally, no, Sydney Sweeney doesn't owe you anything. How other people respond to the ads she puts out, it's not entirely in her hands. Like other women in the public eye, she doesn't need to be banished for a mistake, but she does get to decide what her brand is. And so in regard to that, socially, if not legally, the question is, does she want to set the record straight? But let's look at it this way. If smacking down a little white supremacy hurts your brand, maybe that was a record that never actually needed to be corrected.